My name is Raul Peña, 46. I work in the defense sector here in Spain. And over the 15 last year, I was part of a lot of panels of experts in television and radio in channels like, for example, Espacios Europeos or Hispan TV. I course politics studies, and from time to time I also write in some kind of special magazines that mostly talk about geostrategic, natural affairs and singularities and things like this. And in the past I have a weekly space, all space in the newspapers, in Diario 16, talking once again about geopolitics. Well, this question has a not so difficult answer, but also not so beautiful. No, this is the reality. It's really difficult that we can see a soon close to this conflict, to the war, and because the reason of the conflict itself lies really deep down in the geopolitical table, and in this table nothing runs fast, and nothing happens really soon. Of course, there is no one good method, but there is always tools in the toolbox to try to achieve that goal. You have the military, you have the economic, the diplomatic, the intelligence maneuvers, but we can't really expect that no one of these end the war really soon, as soon as we all will like, and even less the conflict, the inherent conflict beneath the war. For sure, the economic and the military are not the way. The economic pressure don't really bother too much Russia. Don't get me wrong, of course, this has an impact, but Russia has been working in this scenario for the last decade, at least the last decade. They have some kind of tools, they are prepared in advance because they know this is going to happen. So, in fact, they are also ready to unplug himself from the Western financial system. No? And at the end, as long as China exists, Russia can hold on and stand. You know? So, obviously, diplomacy is the only way. Maybe not a really good one, but we don't have another one. But we are not talking about low-level embassy diplomacy. This is not a problem within two countries. There is a war between two countries, but this is a conflict of different sides of the world. Not two sides, like we see in the past, but we have multiple sides that have to talk and have to find a way. We are talking about the United States, we are talking about China, we are talking, of course, of Russia, and last and maybe the most important, Europe. Frustrating, empty, and for my opinion, pure show for the gallery. You know? Just now, the United States and China are the winner of the situation, and they are, frankly, quite happy with this. So we can expect that they lead a real effort to change the situation. On the other hand, Russia don't have too many options. They make, like some people say, they make some kind of all-in with the invasion of Ukraine that no serious analysis can see in advance, or not easily at least, and they cannot afford be shown in the international community or even in his own country like a bluffers, if you understand me. So there are not too many options just now for the negotiation. So as long as Europe don't have his own voice and his own position in this conflict, there are no effort that can be success. Just now, Europe have the position of the United States and the NATO. Well, in fact, it's exactly the same, the position of the NATO and the United States. And I am not going to say this is good or this is bad, but I am sure that as long as Europe has his position, no effort can really be successful. So Europe really have to take part in this, but the Europe government and the Europe population still have to suffer a little more time until they realize that they need to have his own position, because you can expect that the country that is most benefit from this situation take a lead in that. It's impossible to be so naive when we are talking about geopolitics. Not really too much. We talk about it later. When I say that at least for 1 decade Russia has been prepared himself for this scenario, we are talking about, for example, the Crimea War. They have a clear sign at this time in this war of where the blows are going to hit and how hard they are going to be. So they have time to prepare. Once again, don't get me wrong. Of course, they are going to have an impact, but they prepare herself for that and are ready to hold that position much time that, for example, the European government or the European population that just rely in his own tools and not prepare specifically for this problem. Anyway, we talked also before that Russia cannot afford a withdrawal. They cannot really afford to be seen in the inner politics or in the international context like the loser of this conflict, of this war. So Russia, even struggling with the economic problem, that it is not so real, in fact, they cannot withdraw. They need some kind of victory, no matter what. Well, of course, it's extremely obviously that the army Ukraine, they give guns or bombs or any kind of armament to Ukraine, it's only good to prolongate the conflict and escalate the conflict and make more suffering, not just to the Ukrainian people, also to the Russian people and also to the European people. It's so obviously that I think that there is nothing too much to comment on that, because it's clear and sign. This is that the United States and the NATO wants to happen, and this is exactly what is happening. This is not, it's so obvious, and this is not even part of a secret agenda. It's public and it's notorious. Let me make some maybe silly example, but you see 2 little children in the schoolyard fighting each other. If you can, you separate, period. You don't give knives, sticks, guns to one of the sides, or maybe sometimes both of the sides with other people, to make that the conflict are even harder and longer, unless you have a really strong interest, that is the case, that make this conflict longer and harder for both parts. Even if this makes that a lot of people or countries are going to suffer, but you take your benefit, and you cannot expect something different from some countries. Once again, in the geopolitical context in table, you cannot be so naive to think another thing.